Don't say yes.
Don't say no.
Don't go outside.
Don't trust anyone.
Don't drink too much.
Don't provoke.
Don't get raped.
Don't walk alone.
Don't go out tonight.
Don't get drunk.
Don't wear that skirt.
Don't show so much.
Don't dress like that.
Don't smile at strangers.
Don't trust anyone.
Don't say that.
Don't do that.
Welcome to our podcast.
Today we're discussing street safety with 3 special guests, our friends and colleagues, and Lisa and Oliver. Hello. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yeah, doing great. Thanks for having us.
Also great. Thank you for having us.
Okay,
Great.
so let's jump right into it. Have you ever experienced street harassment?
Yeah, I agree, but also I think it's also in like great situations. Like I think you also try to avoid street harassment. Certain situations, say if you go on a tram or something like that, you would also like sit in a certain place to try and avoid it in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think street harassment, like especially when you go out in the evenings, I think it's like I guess people are also a bit drunk and stuff. But also like in the everyday life, just walking down the street, I do feel like you can feel it in different forms.
Yeah, true, especially when you go into the tram and you see like guys groups that are drunk or something, you try to avoid them and sit like as far away from them as possible.
So you would say that it influences your behavior in a certain way in your everyday life, that you decide to change your routine or change your habits?
Yeah, actually yes, like sadly yes, but it does.
100%, yeah.
And Oliver, how about you? Have you ever experienced street harassment?
I have not experienced street harassment. However, I've seen it happen to family and friends many, many times, I have to say. And it's pretty very common, especially at night.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that make you feel as a man?
In the beginning, I come from a Latin American background. In Latin America, it's fairly common for a guy, especially like out at like when people are going out, to kind of catcall a woman, and it's seen culturally more as giving a compliment, when in practice, as all catcalling is, it has a negative effect. So in the beginning, at first, it was something that never really occurred to me, the negative aspect of it, but now I'm starting to become a bit more introspective of it and trying to, at least when I see something, say something in the moment.
That's great.
Also, have you ever seen men getting catcalled?
I would say I don't think I have actively seen it, but I must say I also don't really watch out for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't mean like it doesn't happen. I would more like say it's just something I don't know. I don't focus on. So let's say if I go out at night, I would automatically sit next to a woman or like focus. I don't know, the woman, because that makes me feel sadly like a bit safer. But it doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
And I feel like in general, if you could say that, like girls are rather being catcalled and guys are rather like being intimidated, like.
I guess in both ways, it's probably a power move.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was girls
Like
more
to show
catcalling,
that they're
and then
powerful and they're superior.
I think with guys, maybe not necessarily guys getting catcalled, but more of a thing of like toxic masculinity, like you said. It's more, kind of an intimidation thing, especially like if it's 2 different groups of guys, I would say. Maybe, there's some shouts in between or some like jeers, but I wouldn't say you can say that it's the same as catcall, like for example, a guy catcalling a girl, maybe.
Mm-hmm. And have you ever helped another person that was being catcalled?
Yeah.
Or do something about it?
Yeah, I did. I used to live in Rotterdam, and I lived in like a student housing similar to what you find here in The Hague. And there was a girl that was being catcalled and harassed on the subway, but I knew, like, we both lived in the same building, so I just kind of sat next to her and we didn't really know each other, but we knew we lived in the same building. So we just sat next to each other and pretended that we knew each other well, and they kind of left it alone.
No, I don't think I've ever actively went between something because I'm just like scared myself. But I think it's like automatically, like if you go on a tram, and there's a group of guys, and automatically girls would stick together and like sit together and like move in a group together or something like that. I think, I don't know, naturally it happens.
Yes, for sure.
Out of instinct, don't go in between. Like you just rather like go away from such a situation. Because for me personally, it's not worth saying something back. I mean, I know like a lot of people do, but I feel like this only causes more conflict and like can also get dangerous.
Not maybe that you don't want to say something. Obviously, you would love to say something, but maybe you just feel more scared and you don't feel as safe as like you can't say anything because the conflict would just get
I think it's better to avoid the conflict. I mean, maybe it's not the solution to the problem, but for the moment, for me, I think it's the safest option to just like leave, because I also heard and saw a lot of my friends getting into like kind of fights because they were catcalled and they would like punch the guys back. So yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think in that moment you have to think about your own safety
Yeah.
first.
Responding to catcalling also makes, I think, a big difference. I think actually want to
Yeah.
say is whether I'm alone or if I'm with friends. When I'm with friends, I'm more likely to, do some things. And yeah, of course, I would go. But then I'm with people. If I'm alone, also on the train, like it's sad, but I don't know if I would. I would like take the person. I would pretend I know the person, but I don't think I would
But
have the courage
always,
to do that.
yeah, always after I get catcalled, I'm like, first I'm like super shocked, like like not super, but like shocked, like, okay, what did just happen? And then like after several seconds, but when the guy's already like far away, I'm like, I should have said something, like I should have said some words back, like to show him what it feels like, to show him what he just said, what he just did. But I'm like, in the first moment, I'm just in too much like shock to say or do anything. So I just like freeze or do nothing.
And how does it make you feel when you get catcalled or street harassed? Do you feel more frustrated, mad, angry, or sad?
I would say in general, like more vulnerable. I would say, but I think there's a difference. I think when like in the place and where, like for example, say if I'm just like on my bike, going somewhere during the day, I get catcalled. I don't think it gets to me that much. I just ignore it. Like I forget about it because it's like so normal at this point. If I walk down the street and like it's a normal area and I feel safe in that area. But if it's say in the evening, I don't know, or even let's say I drank a bit or something like that, and I bike or walk or something, and then people catcall me and it's a group, and I can hear the drunks, and I feel really vulnerable and scared because I know I physically like I cannot do anything if something happens to me, and I've had it before that I was like surrounded, and just I don't know, you just feel vulnerable, like you can't do anything. Like what am I gonna do? Call the police? Yeah, by the time they're there, like it's too late, and then you just get really scared, and then afterwards I'm just upset, I think.
Yeah, me too. Afterwards I get like super angry because I feel or think, how do they think they have the right to call me names but I don't have the right to call them any names? Like why do they do it? Like what do they expect? Is it like, do you think it's some kind of compliment? Do they just do it in order to show how cool they are to their friends? Or I really don't, like, I ask myself why? Like why are they doing that? What's the reason?
And also, can you feel? Do you think you feel safer if on the street with a group of friends, for example, or with friends or family, or do you or it doesn't matter and you just feel the same as like when you're alone?
I feel safer with a group.
Yeah,
like it depends. Like during the day, I think for me also I lived in different neighborhoods, for example, in The Hague, and like where I live now, I don't really mind. But I've lived in neighborhoods in The Hague before where it does really make a difference, and like I would have minded in the evenings. Like the bike makes me feel a bit safer because I'm fast. I don't know.
So you can talking about The Hague, you can probably differentiate. You can feel safer in some neighborhoods
100%.
than other
Like
neighborhoods.
it's such a it's worlds of difference. Like I'm the same person, but I feel way more vulnerable in some areas than in others. It makes a massive difference.
Yeah. Could you specify maybe what areas do you feel?
I lived for a while near Zouder Park.
Yeah.
And then I lived a while as well. It's like near in the HS. There's like a red light district along there, and there I really I've had it like people grab the back of my bike on motorcycles. When like people are faster, so they drove next to me on the motorcycles in the evenings, and just I don't know, spoke to me or like shouted at me and stuff. And now where I live now, for example, it's near the Haxebos, and I've never had it once walking there down the street to Central, for example.
Crazy how we just see this as maybe sometimes it can just become normal, even if it shouldn't be normal, and we don't talk about it as much as we should. Also, what do you do to feel more safe? What do you have any do you take anything with you, or if you feel unsafe, what can be your reaction, or what can you do? Like me, for example, and I'm from Spain, so in Spain also talking with a lot of friends, it's also really usual for us to, if we're walking back home alone and we feel unsafe, we have our keys as like our mechanism just in case, like to defend ourselves. Because also you have to get into the legal part, what you can take with you and what you can't. But obviously the keys can, I won't use it, but it just makes me feel safer.
Yeah, true. I don't take my keys. I've never thought about that. But actually, if you get into a dangerous situation, it's a might be a good weapon actually. But usually I take a small pocket alarm where you can pull out the kind of ring, and then it goes do 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 like super loud that everyone around can hear it. And because it's also quick, like you can just like grab it, like you have it in your pocket or in your purse or whatever, and you just grab it like super quick. But for a long time, when I started going out, I also had a pepper spray in my pocket, but I never used it. And what I also do is that when I'm alone and walking home at night, I call my friends to be on the phone so that the people know, yeah, I'm on the phone, I'm talking to someone. So if something happens, I can let the person know, the person realizes.
The typical, are you home yet? Are you,
Yeah.
are you, that's something I think all of us do to
Text me when you're home.
yeah. It's really sad that it's really, for us, I think, like especially for women, it's really normal to, that message is just really, really normal. I mean, I do it daily. I don't know about you guys. I guess so.
Yeah,
But
same.
do you do it, Oliver?
Yeah, I do, especially like with a friend, like a female friends that go out or they're coming home, I definitely send a text.
But do you feel more like maybe when you're walking alone home, do you feel more like that you're unsafe and the way that you're afraid that you will get catcalled or harassed, or what do you feel? What are you afraid of?
I mean, I'm a guy, so obviously my sense of what I feel is safe and unsafe, it's always going to be that of drastically different of a woman, which you have to be a bit more reflective about it, because I've been mostly quiet about this because I haven't been catcalled and I haven't necessarily been harassed, other than maybe a homeless guy, but I mean that's a different story. But so I would say I don't necessarily take any in The Hague, at least I don't take precautions when I'm walking home, but again, the consequences for me are always different. My safety compared to the safety of that of one of my female friends, it's always going to be a different story, you know? So it's something I kind of have to reflect on quite a bit, as in like, yeah, okay, I can walk home from the club and I mean, I don't feel like I'm ever in any danger, but obviously one of my female friends, if they were to do the same, I know that they would most likely be feeling a little more vulnerable and a little more worried, especially if they were walking home alone at night.
I actually have a question there. I remember I was talking once to a friend of mine, and we were talking about this one street, and I'm like, I always avoid that street, I go around it, and he was like, yeah, me too, I'm scared I'm gonna get robbed. And like that thought never came to me, like when I walk down the street, that I would get robbed or mugged or something like that. I'm really scared that I harass. Like, would you then be more scared, for example, that you might be robbed, or like someone might?
That's true,
that's exactly, as I said, the consequences for a guy when it comes to street safety, it's completely different from a woman. I mean, yeah, we think of things like, if we're going to be safe, like, oh, someone might steal my wallet, you know, we don't think about what could come after that. Yeah. Which is, I mean, that's the sad reality, unfortunately. Yeah, to answer your question, I guess, like, no, I don't, comparatively speaking, because, I mean, yeah, The Hague for me is the safest place I've ever lived, so no, I don't ever feel like I'm a little worried about getting robbed here, but again, yeah, that's my personal thing. It's a safe sense of safety is always kind of comparative, especially where the background you come from. But again, the consequences for me are always going to be something different from that of a woman.
So you said The Hague is one of the safest cities you've lived in?
Yes.
Okay. Do you, Lisa and Anne, feel the same?
I don't, but
I think it also depends on where you are, where you're going in The Hague. I mean, I'm from Vienna. I live in Vienna now. I lived in a town next to Vienna, which is super safe usually. And in Vienna, it depends. Like in the inner city, you're usually super safe. But when you get out of this inner city, and especially when you walk around the train stations, the bigger train station, it can get pretty sketchy. And because I used to drive with the train back home after going out in Vienna, so you have to go to the train station. And yeah, I also got catcalled a lot there. And it's like in general super sketchy, and I'm always on my phone with my friends when I'm going there, so yeah, to feel safer. Also when I'm waiting for the train,
I think the areas make such a big difference, like, and what's something which in The Hague, so which makes me feel safe, are the train stations, like not the small stops, but like Centraal or Utrecht or something like that in the evenings, like outside maybe, but in the train station or on the train station I'm not that scared. And I think it's because it's blocked off, so people don't like chill there. all night and stuff like that. And like I'm from Germany, and the train stations there are pretty open, so like you do see fights a lot inside the train station.
Yeah,
It's,
in
like, drunk
Austria
people
same,
throwing
yeah.
stuff
Mhm.
around. So that is a big safety difference, I would say.
So
What do you think could be something that could be done to fight street harassment towards women? Do you think it needs to be like a kind of societal change, or it's connected to education?
I think a lot of what it has to do is we need to stop victim blaming, I would say. Because a lot of what it gets told when it comes to like, okay, what can you do to stop street harassment? It's like, well, wear something different or don't go here, and you have to ask yourself, well, what you're doing then is you're only blaming the victim. You're not looking at the root of the cause, and the root of the cause is the individuals or the perpetrators who are committing these actions. So I would say, I think it's time to stop victim blaming and actually look at the root of the cause, which are the perpetrators.
And
Yeah,
I think also
I
make
agree.
it easier, like, so let's say I had friends and they had like people like waiting outside their house for like several like weeks, like just guys waiting for them, I don't know, get out and just annoy them. I guess they were bored. And they called the police saying, look, you know, there's these men which are like waiting outside the area, and the police was just like, yeah, that's the area, that's the Hague, deal with it. And I think that is an issue because then there's no consequences for catcalling, nothing. Like maybe like in the rare case something happens, but generally like I wouldn't say like if I say, oh, I don't know, this person there with a I don't know brown jacket catcalled me, then people would just be like, oh, okay, like get over it.
because actually I like, but and because you were talking about Dubai and that there's so many street cameras, you think that prevents people being catcalled? I never thought about it, but when my parents came to visit me here in The Hague, and I showed them my neighborhood and my building, and my mom was like, "Oh, okay, so you can feel safer. I'm glad they have a lot of street cameras here because it prevents crimes." And I was like, you really think cameras prevent crimes, prevent you being catcalled or sexually harassed or abused or whatever? Because I don't think so, actually. Like, I
also
don't think
so.
the...
It can be used as a proof later, maybe, but
But
not to
normally-
prevent
But not to
it,
prevent
yeah.
it, because I
Yeah.
don't think that people, oh yeah, there's a camera, I won't catcall that person now. I don't
I actually agree. Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't think it. Maybe it's a
Mhm.
perception thing, but I don't think it does a lot. I think big issue is the mechanism of like actually like what is the consequence? Okay, let's say on camera you see that someone was catcalling someone. Okay, and then what?
They
Like,
cannot
there's-
prove their identity, like,
But even if
reveal
you
it.
do prove their identity, is it
Mhm.
illegal to catcall?
That's,
Like, you know,
depends
like-
on the country, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we will be talking about. It would be interesting to talk about. What do you guys think about this problem? Do you see it as a taboo in your surroundings to talking with your family, your friend? Do you talk about it daily or usually?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I talk a lot about that with my friends since
Since-
when we're going out, we're being catcalled together. So, I mean, afterwards we usually talk like it's natural. But actually, I think I never like really talked about it with my parents. I think. I mean, it's not like it's a taboo, but I don't know. Like the topic just never came up because you know, if when I'm with my parents at night, like walking, I never get catcalled. Like, you know, if there's like a man, like my dad, like people don't catcall me or my mom.
So thank you very much for being
having
here
me.
with us and sharing your experiences and all your different points of view. And yeah,
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
for
us.
having
It was
us.
very interesting and insightful.
bye guys.
Bye.